What is up, IDP Army? It is your man Jordan Reigns at 50 Shades of Drunk, back again with another episode of the IDP Army podcast, mostly IDP, all fantasy football. Today, we're going to go over some 2022 IDP fantasy football rankings. We're going to go over our top 5 linebackers here at the IDP Army, so stick around. It's going to be a great show. All right, guys, gals, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, today we're going to go over my top 5 dynasty or linebackers for this 2022 season for IDP Fantasy Football. It's going to be a fun episode. Won't be too long. If you can go back on the channel, check out my dynasty linebacker rankings. Those I put up about 2 months ago. We're going to do this in 5-player sections, so the episodes and the shows are a little easier to consume, to digest, and I can just put together a high-quality piece of content for you. So on that note, do me a big favor. Go subscribe to our Patreon. We have 3 different tiers. You're going to get IDP rankings in some of them. You're going to get underdog rankings in some of them. You're going to get dynasty index in some of them. Plus, you're going to get to talk to us here at the IDP Army and on the Offensive Points podcast. And it's going to support us here in the next 2 to 3 months as we roll into the 2022 fantasy football season. I plan to transition to making content full time in the fantasy space and in other areas, but fantasy is my first love. And, you know, the IDP Army has really shown a lot of support and love on this journey as it's been a side hustle. And as I want to make it more of a real thing, if you've ever thought about supporting us, please do so. Now is the time. And the best way to do that is just join the community on the Patreon. We appreciate it. It goes a lot farther than you guys think. Do me a favor, go back, check out the boys from Offensive Points and I. We just did the podcast over the AFC North, I believe it was. But we have a Cincinnati Bengals video we just put up on the channel as well. That's not on the podcast. It's just on the channel. So go check that out. So, okay, like I said, we're going to go over our top 5 linebackers here. Quickly, I want to go over a little bit of news. There's not a lot of stuff. But Leonard Floyd from the Rams, one of the top edge players from last year, finishes edge 15, DL 15, is recovering from an offseason ankle surgery, something to monitor. Von Miller is gone, so he's still going to be their primary edge player. But again, coming off injury, let's keep an eye on that. Put a pin in it, shall we say. Darius Leonard still dealing with some ankle soreness. He's had this ankle issue ongoing for a while. Not even his biggest health concern at the moment, but that is ongoing, so I wanted to bring it up. Chase Young, it just started rehabbing or has resumed rehabbing, but there's no timetable for his return. That's a little bit worrisome. If you watched my video in season, you know I've already been a little concerned with Chase Young, so we'll have to see. But his value is not what it was and what it maybe seems to be out in the streets. So be wary if somebody's trying to sell him to you at a premium, because I would be hesitant to accept Chase Young right now onto my team unless it was pretty heavily in my favor, or at least I viewed it that way. Final real piece of news, Minkah Fitzaptrick currently going through, he's at OTAs or minicamp or whatever, but he's not participating, working on that new contract. Should be interesting with Brian Flores there now as their defensive coordinator, the guy who sent Minkah there from Miami. So hopefully he gets his contract. He's coming off his best IDP season. He finished as, I believe, DB12 this last year, his first DB1 season. Tackles were up. It was just a good season for him, so we want to keep him on the Steelers. So that's pretty much the abbreviated version of what we have on the news. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to transition into our top 5 linebackers for the year. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know this is going to be a little different than the dynasty situation, and they'll be subject to change. Some of these guys are a little lower than maybe you would think. But there's reasons for that, and I'll get into that. So let's just go ahead and start with our number 1 linebacker here this year at the IDP Army going into the 2022 season, and that is going to be Micah Parsons. Okay, he's a second-year linebacker, and I put him at number 1 here on the year. And some people might be surprised to see him here. Because we do have guys like Devin White, we do have guys like Darius Leonard who've been holding this fort down. But Micah Parsons brings something very unique to the table, and that is the fact that he gets played as an actual edge rusher, not just a blitzer, on a fairly regular basis. So on top of having the very high floor of a premium middle linebacker or off-ball linebacker, where he's going to have, 4, 5, 6 tackles pretty consistently game to game, he's lining up on the edge and allowed to rush the passer, and He's good at it. And he's getting home for a lot of behind the line of scrimmage plays. Last year, his rookie season, defensive play rate 16.29, tackle rate 9.2729, a little low, but I think there was multiple weeks where he was playing on the edge, so that brought down his overall tackle rate. But I think you'll find that, and actually, I'll show you guys a little glimpse of the index here of some of the things the index can show you. Point impact play rate 4.3, very, very high, and then points per snap 0.35. So give me just a moment. I'll pull this up. Okay, so here we are in the index. We're looking at Micah Parsons here. So these are all of his numbers for the whole season. So I'll just go ahead, and a lot of those were on that last chart. I'll show you guys the next one. Okay, so let's look here. This is Micah Parsons solely as an edge rusher, or when he played primarily as an edge rusher. That was weeks 2, 3, 11, and 12. Okay. In those weeks, tackle rate pretty low, 6.57, but you would expect that as the edge player. But his points were still coming in pretty consistently. Still managed to get a decent amount of tackles, but he had 6 tackles for loss, really boost that number. This is his numbers on the weeks he was mainly an off-ball linebacker. Tackle rate goes up a full 4%. He still had plenty of sacks from the linebacker position, actually more than from the edge. You'd be surprised at that, 8.5. But points per snap, 0.33 versus points per snap, 0.4 as an edge rusher. So even as an edge or an off-ball linebacker, Micah Parsons was not only good, he was really, really good. He was above average in both positions. So this, I can adapt. I wasn't super high on him last year coming in as a rookie because I got burned the year before by another player who I was very high on as a rookie, Isaiah Simmons. But I can recognize based on the usage that he had and the way he was actually able to get home that he's a player I'm confident putting as my number 1 linebacker this year because I know he's going to have the opportunities for the big plays, but I also know that he's going to have he has consistently high floor at the off-ball linebacker position as well. So let's go ahead and talk about linebacker 2 for the year over here at the IDP Army. That is Roquan Smith. All right. Roquan Smith has been in the league for a while. He is perennially staying up there for me. I believe he was my number 2 linebacker last year as well. 25 years old. This last year, his advanced stats from the index: defensive play rate 18.53, extremely high; tackle rate 16.15, really high; impact play rate right around 2%, and then points per snap were over 3, which you like. I have a tweet here as well from Jacob Infante. I don't know if I said your name right. My God, I'm sorry, but it says, even after missing most of week 17, Bears linebacker Roquan Smith had a tremendous year. His numbers are as follows: 139 tackles, 6th in the NFL, 98 solos, 2nd in the NFL. And again, he missed week 17, or missed most of it. 18 tackles for loss. Some crazy, crazy good numbers there. Oh wait, I'm sorry. These are 2 years ago. This is his numbers from 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Because I was gonna say he had 18 tackles for loss the year before. 4 sacks, 7 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. That was 2020. Let's see if I can pull up 2021 here in the index. Okay, here we are in the index, and we are in the appropriate year. All right, 2022 Roquan Smith, 12 tackles for loss, 3 pass deflections, a touchdown, an interception. You like to see that. Still had 3 sacks. Quarterback hits were a little lower, but those points per snaps and all those numbers from that graphic were for 2021. 2020, his rates were still pretty high. Tackle rate, a little closer to 14%. Defensive play rate, down a little bit too. But as you can see, year over year, we are getting great numbers on a points per snap basis. He's hovering right around 0.3, which is extremely high. So Roquan Smith, for us here at the IDP Army, is, as a 4th-year player, he's shown us he can produce at a high level in a variety of manners. So I've got him slotting as my number 2 linebacker this year at this moment in time. Again, this is subject to change. Things can change quickly in the NFL. We don't know if that's necessarily going to hold up right now. But right now, for me, Roquan Smith is my number 2 linebacker because of the consistency that he offers. And I think there is something to be said about how bad the offense for the Chicago Bears will be this year. He could lead the league in snaps, defensive snaps. I don't believe that would shock anybody here. So we're going to move on quickly. And again, this episode's going pretty fast, but I don't want to bog you guys down. We hit me up on Twitter. We'll have more information. There's a ton of stuff in the Ultimate IDP Index on these players, but I want to bring up Devin White next. He's my linebacker 3 this year. I have his 2021 breakdown and his 2020 breakdown, so you can see how he scored his points. 2 years ago, he had a lot more sacks. 54 points came from sacks, whereas in 2021, only 21. But his advanced stats were still pretty good. His play rate was right around 15%. Tackle rate was right around 12%. Points per snap was down just a smidge this year. It was down to 0.26. We can forgive him for that, because he's still a rock solid player. He still is an inside linebacker, and he still has big play upside. Let's take a look here real quick at his actual at the index with him in it. So this is him in 2021. Is that right? Am I looking at the right slide? Devin White, 2021. Yeah. Oh, wait. What year is this? Sorry, guys. For whatever reason, this one doesn't have the year on it. 58. All right, 2.5 sacks. 9 sacks. Interesting. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing what I'm seeing. But Devin White, he makes the impact plays. His total impact play number for this last year was. This is. All right, I need to fix this. My formula is off on this one. I apologize. This is not accurate what you're seeing. I'll pull up this graphic. There we go. The impact plays are still very, very high in 2021, though. I mean, he still had 8 tackles for loss. He still had 9 quarterback hits. Interestingly, he had more quarterback hits this year and a lot less sacks. So he was still blitzing. The upside for Devin White still exists. So don't let anybody scare you off of Devin White too much this year. I don't have him as my 1 or 2. He is down at 3 because I believe in Micah Parsons, and Roquan Smith has been it's been less of an up and down battle with him. You just kind of know what you're going to get. So let's run this real quick, and then we will finish up with our final 2 linebackers. Hey, IDP Army. Hope you guys and gals are enjoying the episode we have for you today. We want to take a little break and tell you about our partners at Underdog Fantasy. Use the link in the description or the code IDP Army when you sign up. They're going to give you a deposit match bonus of up to $100, and you can play all kinds of sports on Underdog Fantasy, not just NFL. They have NFL, NBA, MMA, PGA. They have everything. If you're into any sport, they generally have something there for you. Go check them out. Tell them we sent you. Go sign up for the Best Ball Mania 3 draft. That is their giant draft that they have every year. Best Ball draft. The winner of that this year is going to win $1 million. The total prize pool is $10 million. We've got content on the channel for it. We have episodes of the podcast for it. We have rankings for it. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. That's where we play best ball. Hopefully we will see you in a draft. Thanks, and now back to the show. All right, go join an Underdog Draft. They are our partners for this offseason. We do all of our best ball content there. Join a draft. That's another way you can support the show. If you don't join the Patreon, we will see you in drafts. Hopefully, we all win a little cheddar this year in that tournament. So let's go ahead and knock this out. Let's get our last 2 of our top 5 linebackers for the 2022 season in here. This guy was a vision, came on the scene like a storm this last year, and that is Seattle linebacker Jordyn Brooks. He was a player that I talked about last year as a breakout candidate, but I did not anticipate seeing what we saw this year. And that was a top 5 finish from him. Led the NFL in solo tackles with 109. Second only to Foyesade Olakun for the total tackles on the year. 10 tackles for loss for him as well. Only 5 pass deflections, no interceptions, only 1 sack. So he wasn't, getting these big plays. But when you have 109 solo tackles, that's not the end of the world. Defensive play rate stayed pretty high, 18%, 18.4. Tackle rate above 16. And Jordyn Brooks, he's a good player, and he's going to take over. He kind of did supplant Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner is now no longer with the Seattle Seahawks. He is now on the Rams. He will probably be on our next episode, and you guys will hear a little bit more about him. But I just want to let you know, Jordyn Brooks this year, he's going to get a lot of snaps, similar to Roquan Smith, where the Seattle Seahawks their team is not good. I mean, I don't know what else to say about them. They are not a very good team. There's going to be plenty of defensive snaps in there. Teams are probably going to run the clock down on them a lot because their quarterbacks suck. Jordyn Brooks, I mean, he's about as close as you can get to just locking in a top 5 linebacker. So I'm putting him in my top 5. He's number 4. And the next guy on the list is probably the guy a lot of people are wondering, where's he been? Why have you talked about him yet? And that is Darius Leonard, the actual king, the number 1, the OG. In my dynasty rankings, he's still, I believe, even ahead of Micah Parsons, even though he's a little bit older. But we are asking, why is he 5 this year for you, Jordyn, and not 1? Like I said, start out the show, subject to change. But we did have some information come through that he had a back surgery. That's pretty scary. Okay. And then I opened up the show with a little bit of news about an ankle issue. So I'll just read you the blurb here that I pulled straight off of Sleeper. It says Indianapolis Colts All-Pro linebacker Darius Leonard underwent back surgery and will miss part of training camp next month, according to head coach Frank Wright. However, Leonard is expected to be back for the regular season, but injuries have become a concern for the 26-year-old who has also had ankle surgery this offseason, causing him to miss organized team activities. Leonard won't need a second ankle surgery, but it's fair to wonder if injuries will cause him to be less effective in 2022. The 3-time Pro Bowler and 3-time first-team All-Pro managed 122 tackles, 75 solo, 4 tackles for loss, 3 QB hits, 4 interceptions, 8 passes defended, in a league high 8 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries in 16 games last year. He is still an absolute and elite playmaker, Darius Leonard is. But the reality is we have a man here who's playing so hard he's hurt. His back is hurt. His ankle's hurt. You can't be as effective if you're hurt. Now, am I saying that he won't be? No, he could completely recover soon. But right now, I don't think we can really hold him as the esteemed crown jewel of IDP for linebackers at this moment. And we'll have to see how this recovery goes along. That being said, it's hard to find somebody with more year-over-year consistency with the high impact play rates that he's had. Over 3% his first 2 years, over 2.5% the last 2 years is an insane high impact play rate. On top of the fact that he has led the league, I believe his rookie year he led the league in tackles, and his points per snap. He's only been under 0.3 points per snap once, and that was this last year when he was injured this last year as well. And it was still 0.29. That is elite. That is on the very borderline of elite. Okay. He didn't have any sacks this year either, which is kind of interesting for him because he generally has a couple of sacks in a season. So we can easily make the case that Darius Leonard will return to form, but we can also make the case that maybe this is a guy who's this year is going to need to take it a little easier. Maybe the team's going to be a little more careful with him because they did pay him a lot of money this last year. So we'll have to watch that right now for the upcoming season. Like I said, he is our linebacker 5 on the Ultimate ID or here at the IDP Army, subject to change. I'm going to be monitoring this situation closely. If you want to know what kind of actionable advice you can do with this information, I would say this is a time to, maybe just look to trading for him in a dynasty league. If you are in a dynasty league with the Darius Leonard manager, and they are a little worried because again, this last season was his worst points per game, 0.29. So maybe they are a little down on him. So you're going to get a guy who's putting up, 0.35 every season, maybe. There's just a lot of different ways you can look at this. And I think this is a buying opportunity if you're looking for that reality in your leagues. So check that out. But overall, Darius Leonard is still top 5 linebacker. You can pretty much lock him in to production. Just like I said, a little concerned about the injuries, the continuous injuries, a guy playing this hard. Another player like this, similar, Jamal Adams. Great player, points per snap, does everything you want, can win with the tackles, can win with the impact plays, but they just play so hard that their bodies take an incredible beating. Not everybody's Myles Garrett, whose body's, beef caked out. He's a little safer, what I'm saying, when he makes those hits. Some of these guys, and that's not to say that Jamal Adams and Darius Leonard are slender by any means, but you know what I'm saying. When you a big dog and you out here hitting other big dogs, gonna wear down on you a little bit. So just to recap, my top 5 linebackers going into the 2022 season are Micah Parsons, Cowboys linebacker. He is our number 1 player going into the year at this moment. Number 2, we have Roquan Smith from the Bears, a perennial elite player, even though PFF does not seem to like his grades. Devin White, another great player for IDP Fantasy Football, can get the tackles, can get the impact plays, does live behind the line of scrimmage. We do have the departure of Jason Pierre-Paul. We had the departure of Levante David, I believe, this offseason as well. So he is now one of the veteran leaders on this team, and I expect him to play like that this year. So more good things from him. I still have him as top 3 linebacker. Jordyn Brooks, a lot of people love Jordyn Brooks, me included. One of my favorite sleepers coming into the 2021 season. Crushed the league as far as tackles overall. Played all 17 games, started all 17 games, was an absolute warrior. Maybe didn't have the massive impact play numbers that you wanted to see, but he was still playing with Bobby Wagner, who we know is an impact play linebacker, and Bobby Wagner has now taken his talents to LA. So Jordyn Brooks, time to step up, and I've got a pretty good feeling he's going to get a plethora of opportunities to stand on the field and just make a tackle against a running linebacker in the third quarter and fourth quarter. Pete Carroll, what are you doing? And finally, rounding out our top 5, and I would say most of these, I would say this is a tier. You could put this whole top 5 as a tier if you wanted to, as your linebacker ones that I would feel most comfortable locking in. Darius Leonard, only at 3 because of the offseason surgeries. But if we get a full clean bill of health and we get, nothing, by the time the season rolls around and he's good to go, he will be, at the top of this tier. Again, he will not be down here at the bottom of this tier. So those are the top 5 linebackers for us here at the IDP Army for 2022 IDP Fantasy Football. I'll give you the next 5 in a day or 2, and I'll give you the next 5 after that in a day or 2, okay? Trying to keep these videos a little shorter for the people that are on YouTube finding us. You guys on the podcast, you already know we got some long-form content coming over there. Shout out to the Patreons. Again, if you want to support us, like I said, this is a real thing. We're really doing this. We have premium rankings. We have high quality stuff, access to myself, the guys on the OP. Want to give a special shout out to our man IDP Bomber. Okay, if you guys know us, Bomber's been around for a while. He is now officially giving him the title as the index mod. He's like helping me mod and watch over the indexes. That's the underdog rankings index. That's the ultimate IDP index and the dynasty index, which has so much information. And what all we got on these things? We got IDP tiered rankings, dynasty trade values, player production profiles, content or contract information. Some of them have write-ups. We have trade histories, little snapshots from leagues and stuff. So there's just so much information packed in there. I can't even keep up with all of it. So we're adding to it all the time. The OP boys are now adding information as well. So our official mod, Bomber, shout out to Bomber. He's our official community lead and our index mod. So appreciate you, Bomber. He's going to be doing some more shows on the channel as well and in the podcast. Because Bomber's got some good shit out there. He's putting some good stuff up on some websites. He's writing, he's interacting on the big Discords, and he's interacting on Twitter. So quickly wanted to give him a shout out. All right, IDP Army, that's it for me. Like I said, tune in again in the next couple of days. You will get the next 5 linebackers and then the next ones after that. And we'll be back soon. Appreciate the support. Love you guys.